Today, Timex watches with rich US and UK heritage, each watch with a story to tell. Let's take a quick trip through time from the 70s to the early and late 80s, and right up to modern day Timex offerings, a small selection from my Timex collection. Discover which Timex watches offer the most reliability, plus grab a few of my tips for buying a vintage Timex, how to get it going and clean it up a little, that kind of thing. First, my Timex Mercury is from the late 70s. The Mercury is a Timex line closely related to the Marlin in design and mechanics. Timex proudly printed the model reference on their watches at this time, which allows you to date them as well as providing some identifying information. You can find the reference on the outer edge of the dials. The year is the last two digits here. 78 predates widespread Asian production, so this watch was almost certainly made in the United States or the UK, unlike some later Mercuries that have Taiwan printed on the dial. I believe the first 5 digits reference the Timex sales catalogue number of the time, and these ones identify the movement. In this case, it's an M104, which is based on the workhorse manual wind M24, used widely in the 1960s and 70s. This M104 has a central seconds wheel, which the M24 often lacked. The 104 is said to be more refined, but remains unjeweled with no shock protection that I know of, fairly basic. And it still works almost 50 years after manufacture, as do so many of these old Timex Mercury watches. The chrome-plated case looks brand new. The acrylic is new because I replaced it. And check out the dial. It's unspoiled with no unnecessary dial text, the simple black baton hands and cursive Arabic numerals against the white dial showcase a minimalist elegance with high legibility. I like it. Consider a Timex Mercury as a go-to for your first vintage mechanical watch. You'll find them with a vast choice of dial designs on the usual auction sites. However, you're far more likely to get a watch that works reliably and accurately if it's a Quartz. Watch number 2 is the first Quartz Timex in my curation. The very edge of the dial is hidden, so I removed the case back and dislodged the movement a little to find it, and can now date this watch to 1984 and see that it's made in the UK. Timex had been refining their Quartz models for about a decade at this point, and in my experience, Timex watches made in the late 70s through the 80s represented their evolutionary pinnacle, both in build and reliability. Keep watching to see how, in my honest opinion, this all falls apart once we get to the modern day Timex watches here, which I think reflect a pretty staggering decline in quality and pride. Oh, and by whatever cunning you found your way here, congrats! And consider subscribing because the algorithm rarely surfaces this kind of content. It likes to show you what's already trending, making it difficult to monetize content that might sometimes be more interesting for me to make, like these treasured old school timepieces. But this video was possible with support from Pularys, who sponsored this part of the video and have been making leather goods since the 1930s. I've done hands-on reviews of many of their products on the channel, and to this day, as you can see, I refuse to be separated from this brilliantly simple and super practical minimalist leather wallet. This one is called the Hobby Wallet. It has this simple squeeze me kind of operation to access the cards. You can see the soft Italia leather has acquired a fantastic rich patina and has molded around the shape of the cards I store inside. Pularys is a family-run business, now in its 4th generation, so every stitch carries nearly a century of expertise and tradition. Pularys offer a wide range of wallets for all use cases and are made with premium, responsibly sourced vegetable tanned leather, which means they only get better with age. Best of all, Pularys wallets are made in their own long-established factory located in Europe, Poland, ensuring consistently high quality and an unmistakable artisan touch. So when you choose Pularys, you're investing in something made with care and real craftsmanship. Find a link to their store in my video description. That's an affiliate link. If you use it to buy something, I can earn a small fee. Yeah, that's not just ad speak. I do personally use and love my Pularys wallet that I've had for a couple of years now. So the Q branding was proudly front and centre through the late 1970s and early 1980s to mark the transition Timex made from mechanical movements. Quartz brought with it a noticeable move towards slimmer cases and more modern dial layouts and topography, though this one has classic baton markers. If you want to buy vintage Quartz Timexes on the used market, many are listed for spares only, but here's the thing. They almost always work with a new battery fitted and or a little care. Most sellers can't test them because they don't have a spare battery, and these obsolete battery denotations, M-cell for example on this watch, seem to baffle sellers, so they list them as spares or repair. You can however get a modern silver oxide battery for all these vintage Timex watches. Just do a quick Google search for today's equivalent of the old battery cell denotation. There will be a forum or Reddit discussion that already has your answer. Don't listen to stupid AI, it could tell you anything. You could also just buy a multi-pack of different sized silver oxide batteries if you think you'll make use of them. Chemically they're all the same, 1.5 volts. Their dimensions only affect capacity, and what fits will work. Unless it doesn't, in which case that often means you need to bend outwards or upwards the battery contacts a little, as well as clean them up a tad so that they make better contact. Most Timex watches will still have immaculate chrome-plated cases that only require a clean. The crystals are acrylic and will probably be scratched. This is what the crystal looked like when I got this watch. To make them look brand new, start with about 600 grade wet and dry paper and soapy water. Work your way down to about 2000 and give it a final buff with plastic or metal polish for a spectacular result. And no matter what the internet tells you, don't think that you can do this properly with just some magic paste product. Next, if you want to dismantle your watch for cleaning or to remove the crystal, you need to know that these Q watches can have an unusual crown removal method. There's no pin to push or screw to turn. Instead, you insert a small screwdriver in this notch and pry the square C-clip up and out. This watch even came with the original box, metal bracelet and receipt of purchase on New Year's Eve. Obviously a Christmas present for someone, and it makes it all that more special now. Watch number 3, again a little scruffy and unloved when I got it. This time we need an LA cell. A modern equivalent is a Renata 395, also known by the SR92 7SW designation. The caseback tells us it's assembled in the Philippines. Its dial revealed a manufacture date of 1988 and that it runs the Timex M601 Quartz time-only movement. It was also marked UK made, if not fully assembled there as the caseback might suggest. And I love the unapologetically clunky and functional mechanical layout of these old Quartz movements, deserving of a display caseback I think. I cleaned some component parts in the ultrasonic cleaner this time, and just buffed the case with a microfiber cloth. And remember that scruffy crystal? I used the same method to repair it with wet and dry paper to make it look brand new. The movements in both of these 1980s Timex watches, by the way, run almost completely silent. The only way I can hear them tick is to press the watch right against my ear. This is worth noting as another mark of their quality because soon I'll be moving on to the modern day watches that are a lot different. But one more old school Timex, watch number 4 I just purchased. It adds some colour to my otherwise monochrome collection. And it holds some secrets it won't give up, maybe you can help. It's a 3-hander with a day and date complication. This one is a 1980 Timex Q with an electromechanical movement. That looks a little bit like something between an M52 and an M54, but it's not the same as either. The dial indicates it's an M58 movement, but I can find no documented references in any of the usual places a Timex geek would look. Perhaps someone out there with deeper Timex knowledge can enlighten me. It's got me beat. Changing the day and date is a nightmare. You have to cycle from 11 PM to 2 AM for the date, and 10 PM to 2 AM for the day. It took me the best part of half an hour to set it, so I won't be doing that again. Anyway, it's working great with a newly fitted battery, and I'll replace the strap with a modern Timex expander bracelet that I have. By the way, 12 quid, that's all I paid for this. Now, what if you want to buy a modern, affordable Timex, Can you buy one of the same quality as my vintage Timex watches that have lasted decades? Watch number 5 is a fairly new Timex Easy Reader. Actually, I have 2 of them. In fact, I have several Timex watches lying around in various states of repair that use these indigo movements, but only 2 that work. Before I forget, if you're still with me and you like real human-made content, please help me with a share or press the new hype button. Thanks. So the reason I have so many of these newer Timex is that I often buy bundles of watches, and they seemingly always come with an indigo Timex or 2 thrown in to kind of pad out the bundle to make it look like you're getting more. And I wish they didn't, because I've found they're normally terrible. I can rarely get these working. Common issues I've encountered are, well, watch this. If I push a new battery in place in this movement, for example, I can get the light to work, which means it has power, but the seconds hand isn't moving at all. Its time-telling days are already kaput. A second common problem I've found is stuck date wheels. I had to change the date wheel in this watch to make it work. Certainly in my own experience at least, watches offering the indigo function from Timex have been the most fragile movements of any watches I've personally encountered. And remember I said I had to press this 1980s Timex to my ear to hear it tick? Well, in contrast, I can hold this modern Timex at arm's length and hear it plain as day. I can hold it at foot's length and it's still testing the limits of my restraint not to propel it across the room. I do love the Easy Reader, see my full review for all the reasons why, but I mostly wear mine outdoors where there is some other noise to drown it out. Indoors, it drives me crazy after 5 minutes and I just have to take it off and bury it in my sock drawer. Also, look at the condition of this used one I got. Anyone would think it's 100 years old. The plating and base metal were so badly pitted that I had to remove the plating and sand really deep into the base metal to remove the pits. I then gave it a nickel plating. I didn't have to do that with any of these watches that are literally decades old. And sadly, on the newer Timex watches, gun is the reference that they used to faithfully print on the outer edge of the dials. It feels like they just aren't proud enough of their products to bother with any of that now. To me, it makes them less collectible. Final thoughts, I hope I've inspired you to take a deeper interest into the Timex story. Their watches from the 70s and 80s really shaped the world of accessible horology, and I think are still the best analog Timex watches you can find today, albeit on the used market.